Hi, it's Rose from Getting Grounded in the Garden. Today I wanted to show you how to collect seeds from flowering plants so that next spring you can plant them yourselves and have new beautiful plants that will grow all summer long like this, like these zinnias right here. Okay, I'm going to clip off this zinnia right here. As you can see, the flowers are beginning to fade, so this would be a good time to extract the seeds from this zinnia. What we want to do is pull off the petals. Try to pluck them right from the center. And do you see these little arrowhead structures at the end? They are the seeds, those little dark colored structures there. So we're going to just pinch them off. And now I have a little handful of seeds that I'm going to put in a container. So I want to continue cutting the same kind of zinnias, and I always make sure that I label them so next spring I know what I'm planting and I can coordinate my colors. So let's see if we have any more here. Here's one. Going to pluck out. See, I plucked out that petal there. See that little structure? That's a seed. 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 Oh, where'd it go? You have to make sure you get down into the base there. And then you just break them off, separate them, and collect them. Here's a yellow one. Bigger zinnia. A little bit of a bigger seed there. Oh, I didn't get down deep enough for that one. Maybe this one is not dried out enough. You need to make sure they're pretty dried out so that the seeds are ready. Oh, didn't get that one. Yeah, this one perhaps is not dried out enough. And what we would do is put these into another container to let them dry out a little bit more. Always throw your seed heads back into your flower bed. There is a chance that they might self-sow and you'll see new sprouts next year. While I was at my mother's house the other day, I cut some of her tall zinnias to show you today. Now, I don't have any tall ones, that's why I took hers, but you can see these are just right for plucking. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over. As you can see, I have one of my kids' old lunch boxes here. Use whatever you have to collect your seeds. I can shake off the dry petals a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to pluck from the inside. As you can see, there is a little spear-shaped structure. That's your seed. For right now, I'm just going to take them off in clumps. Look at that. When they're dried up, you can get a whole bunch at a time. And I'm going to hold the whole group together, twist a little bit to get the stems off. I have seeds, red zinnia seeds. I'll do the same for the whole flower. It's loaded with seeds. Each seed here gives you a whole new zinnia plant. It's just amazing. Okay, here's a perennial I fell in love with this summer. It's a variegated false sunflower. Botanical name would be Heliopsis. And I'm going to create my label, variegated false sunflower, put it in a container. And now this method is a little different from the zinnias. I'm going to cut it. It's better to cut them because to try to break them off sometimes it's not as easy as you think, and you can end up pulling the whole plant out. So for this one, I can remove the petals, get rid of that extra material, and we're just going to scrape and the seeds will fall right out into the container. This is, again, this is not quite dry enough, but I am getting some seeds in there. I might come back a week later to look for more dried out flowers so I can do the same process. Here's one here, it looks pretty dry. Just going to scrape and the seeds fall right into my container. Now right next to this very healthy variegated false sunflower, I have a beautiful big billowy reddish pinkish flowered vinca. These annuals are stunning, and they last all summer and just get bigger and bigger and brighter and brighter. They give you a nice mound of color. Well, this process is a little different. As you can see, the flower doesn't have seed heads in there. There is a little hole for the insects to pollinate deep down in there. But here's what we do. We look deep down into the stem. We're looking for seed pods. Okay, let me cut this one here so you'll see them. See these two little bean looking pods right here? Inside those there are little rows of seeds. They are not ready yet, but within a few weeks they will get larger and they will start to dry out and possibly crack open a little bit. And that's when you want to extract them and then drop the seeds into your little container and let them dry inside before you clean them up and refrigerate them for the winter. Usually you'll see them in sets of 2. So instead of going to the nursery next year and buying 6 packs of your vinca plants, you might possibly want to grow your own from seed. Not that I'm discouraging you going to nurseries, because I love nurseries, but this is a fun project. It will help you save a little money and give you a great sense of accomplishment. Here's a cleome or a spider plant. Usually you see them in pink, but here's a whole bunch of white ones. Well, see these seed pods shooting out from the sides? When they dry up, that's where you'll find your little seeds all lined up, just like any bean pod. So you would crack them open and collect the seeds. Now, most of this perovskia or Russian sage is not ready, but I do see a stem here that has some dried seed pods on it right here. So I ran out of containers outside, so let's see if I can do this over a plastic baggie. Just put it over your baggie and scrape the seed pods right into your bag. Look at that. It looks like a lot of fluff, and it is, but when we get inside we will clean it and prepare it for next spring. You can do the same thing with basil or any plants that are spiky like this. Let's just stop at our coleus plant here. Okay, the coleus is one of the easiest plants to reproduce, but as you can see, this has spikes. They're not quite dry enough or ready enough right now, but let me break one off. I pinched it off pretty easily. So what you do in a week or two, when these seed pods are dry enough, you will just scrape them off into a container, just like that, and let them dry. You can also cut these and put them in water. They root very easily. You can plant a bunch of plants and keep them in the winter indoors, and then you'll have some to plant next year in the spring. One thing I haven't mentioned is cleaning your clippers between each type of different plant. It really helps. You don't want to be spreading any bacteria or infections or diseases from one plant to another. Okay, here we have a big beautiful hydrangea. Oh, let me clear out the spider web from there first. Okay, this right here looks like it's pretty dry. Let's see if we can collect some seeds. I'm just going to hold this over a bowl, an empty bowl, and tap, tap. I don't think it's quite dry enough. I think I did get some seeds in there. See them in the bottom? Let me try another one. I might just leave it in here to dry further and I can get more seeds, although it is better to leave it on the plant to extract the seeds. All right, this one looks pretty dry. It's lost just about all of its color. Let me remove this other one for a second and let's try this one. I see a few seeds coming out. Not many, not many. Okay, I don't think this one is ready. And you know, this plant is also pretty young, so I'm not sure how much seed production it really has. Okay, let's stop there with the hydrangea. We're going to try a different kind of hydrangea right now. Here is my huge oak leaf hydrangea bush. Let me cut off a flower. This one looks pretty dry. Oh, there's two there actually. Oh, the whole stem is dry. See that? Okay. Let's just tap them. Oh my goodness. The seeds are just popping right off of there. Dropping right off. They're very tiny for such a large flower, but each one of those seeds can produce a whole shrub. It might take time for it to get this big. I think it took this one about 10 years. That's one thing about gardening. It requires some work and a lot of patience. But it makes you happy when you see your beautiful plants and flowers growing and thriving and contributing to the natural ecosystems around you. Okay, I think I'll cut a few more and drop some seeds in here. One thing to know is that you can't be guaranteed that all of your seeds will be viable. So when planting them in the spring, we need to overplant, probably at least double the amount of plants that we would like to get. This is plenty right here. Let's just tap away. I should have a bigger bucket here, but I don't. Okay, I can see that I have plenty. I'm removing the dried flower petals so that you can see how many we've gathered. Here you go. Oh, nice little pile of them. I would say there's at least 100 in there. Okay. Okay, so here is a canna plant. The canna, well, this stalk is still blooming, but this one is expired. And as you can see, it left a few little weird looking, bird looking things with beaks on them. Each one of these has seed pods inside of it. So I can't crack them open yet. They're not quite ready. When you see these sacs turning a brownish, tannish color, and if you see a little crack opening, they are ready. You will just twist them off, open them up, and you'll see little dried sacs. In your palm, very carefully, you'll squeeze out the black seed that's inside. Now that's just one way of reproducing cannas. Most people will dig them out of the ground in the fall, cut the stems off, and store them in a cool, dry place over the winter. Now in this big planter at the bottom of this standard rose bush, I had a whole bunch of this very light purple pink verbena growing. But now it's time to take some seeds from our verbena, and perhaps we can get some free plants for next year out of this. I'm not being real scientific or specific right now. I can clean them out when we get inside and get to the seeds a little better. I'll just take a whole bunch of them here. I better cut them. They're not breaking off very easily. Okay. You can see where the flowers were. Each one of these little stalks here had a flower on it. And now, of course, the flowers turn to seeds. It's a beautiful, amazing process. The flowers get pollinated. Then the pollen is taken down to the so-called ovary, where it creates new seeds. This is another verbena, Verbena bonariensis. It's tall and airy, and it gives great height to certain landscapes and areas. Well, underneath these flowers is where the seeds will develop. They're not quite dry enough now, but when they're ready, I would just pinch them off and scrape them or rub them onto a plate, let them dry just like all the other seeds. Okay, here's that butterfly milkweed that I love so much, the Asclepias tuberosa. As you can see, it's developing these long seed pods, and we're going to give this one a little time for them to get brownish and to start cracking open. As soon as we see that, we can just take the seed pods right off and drop the seeds into a bowl, let them dry out, and then refrigerate them. Very simple. We need as many of those as we can get to help our monarch butterflies. Okay, see all this echinacea, all these coneflowers? They are definitely ready to produce and put out some seeds. And I hope the finches didn't get too many of them. Actually, I like to leave a lot for the finches. I like to leave these over the winter. because our birds are pretty hungry. So you're just going to basically remove the petals and then just kind of pinch. And as you can see in here, there are some dried seeds from the inside coming out. They're kind of long, like many of the other seeds we've seen today. Okay, so just keep pinching and rubbing and they will come right out for you. Get the dry ones. Here's another dry one right here. That's all there is to it. Okay, that was our echinacea, purpurea. I have some pinks and some oranges in here. I'm not sure which is which, but when I plant them, I don't mind if they get mixed up anyway. And one more thing in here is the achillea. Right here you can see some dried seed heads at the end of these tips here. They used to be really pretty, like all of these. This whole section was full, but now they're ready to just pop right off into the bowl. So we have plenty of seeds. Now they will last a few years in the refrigerator. Basically what you're doing is simulating what happens in nature. The plants, at least in this region, they will go through a cold period and then they will begin to germinate and emerge next spring and summer. Here we go. Okay. This is a ground cover called plumbago. Beautiful blue flowers in the fall. Well, if we zoom in closely, we can see some dried seed heads. And what's inside? You guessed it. A whole bunch of seeds in each flower. Okay, I'm back inside at the kitchen table. I have all my seeds sorted out. Everyone has a sign. And as you can see here, the yellow short zinnias, there's only a few in there, so this will remind me to go back out there in a week or two to wait for those flowers to dry out to collect more seeds. Same thing with the white pink zinnias. I tried to shake these hydrangeas a little more, still not dry enough, so I'm going to leave them here to dry. As you can see, everything has a napkin or a paper towel underneath. That will help the drying process. But if these don't dry enough, I'll just go out and clip another flower and shake it to get the seeds out. I cleaned out the seeds as best as I could with my fingers by taking out most of the chaff, which is the extra material that's not needed. And I have a few things left here. This was our red tall zinnia, so what I'm going to do with this is to pick through it as I'm talking to get rid of the leaves and put it on this plate. Once I have all my seeds ready, they will go into paper envelopes. It's important to use paper envelopes to put them in the refrigerator, and make sure you use labels. You can use these same labels or just write on the envelopes. And what you might want to do beforehand to save yourself some time later is to get a chart and look up the times when you should start planting these seeds in soil in late winter or early spring, so that you won't be panicked when that time comes and you won't know where to start. I'd like to talk about seed starting for a minute. Let's say we're starting with one type of flower, the gomphrena, otherwise known as the globe amaranth. It's one of the easiest seeds to start, and it would be a great choice if you're a beginner. You might also want to consider cosmos, marigolds, zinnias, even tomatoes, peppers, or basil. You've collected the seeds, you've cleaned them of extra chaff, you've dried them, refrigerated them in labeled envelopes, and now it's time to prepare for what to do in late winter or early spring. It's time now to gather your materials, okay? You might even find some things on clearance right now. You need to gather a seed starting kit. Make sure it has some type of lid and a drainage pan underneath. If you don't have a sunny window, you'll probably need a light with a timer and a warming tray as well. And if you don't think you'll be able to water the plants regularly, you might want to consider getting a mister. Okay, we're not going to sow the seeds now, but we need to plan on our dates. So let me show you how to go about doing that. So I'm going to plantmaps.com. This is one of the sources you could use, but most of them look like this. You plug in your zip code and zoom to zip here, and right at the top it will tell you your hardiness zone. Mine happens to be zone 7A. Next, you're going to search last frost-free dates in southeast Pennsylvania. That's where I live. You plug in your region of your state. So right here I have a list of towns. Mine is not in there. So this is actually another part of plantmaps.com, and it's just easier to get to this point by doing it that way. All right, so this takes me to a map. See Pennsylvania here? I'm going to click right about here, a little bit southwest of Philadelphia. I like to look at that latter date there, April 30th, and that's the last date we should expect a frost. We don't want to plant fresh new baby plants in a freezing cold bed. I even like to plan for surprises, and I take my time planting tender annuals and perennials until around Mother's Day. But for now, we will stick with this April 30th date as our planting date. Now we're delving into a little math. Don't panic, it's pretty simple. We're Googling Gomphrena seed starting. What you'll notice is you will get a lot of different seed companies, and they're great because they tell you everything you need to know to grow a particular type of seed. You'll basically see what's on the seed package. All right, let's look at Johnny's Seeds, Gomphrena seeds. Other companies might be Burpee or Bonnie Plants. You'll see a whole list of them there. No, we're not signing up right now. Oh, I like these pink ones right here. Okay, let's go down to growing information. All right, they take 5 to 14 days to germinate. Now that 5 to 14 days is on top of the amount of time we will need for the seeds to grow after they germinate or sprout. Okay, it says to transplant, sow the seeds 6 to 8 weeks before the last frost. That's what we need to know right now. So let's look at our calendar. We're looking at April 30th, and we're going to count backwards. It said 6 to 8 weeks, right? So we're going back 8 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's April. Let's go back to March. 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 weeks would take us to March 6th. Okay, this could be our seed starting date. Remember, we need it 5 to 14 days to germinate. So I'm actually going to add another week onto that. So let's go back to February, the last Saturday of February, and we have February 27th. Now, anytime during this week, we can choose a date. We don't have to be that specific. We're going to say start Gomphrena seeds on this date or anytime this week. So that's basically how you do it. It's not that difficult, is it? So that's all we need to do for now, okay? We'll think about sowing the seeds later in February. So for now, you're collecting your seeds, you're drying them, you're refrigerating them, okay? I would recommend just sticking to 1 or 2 types of flowers right now, especially if you're a beginner. This is just experimental this first year. And you know what? You want to keep it simple and fun. You might decide that this is not for you and you would rather buy seeds or buy plants. But if it works out, you'll be motivated to collect and sow your own seeds more often. Hey, thanks for watching. It's time to start your new project. I hope this video gave you the information you need to start your new hobby of growing plants from seed.